Alright, so if you're seeing the title of this video, then you probably already know exactly what's up. Today we're going to be tackling a what-if concept, which I wanted to do one that was not exactly the most original what-if concept in relation to Dragon Ball itself, but one that I felt like I could have the most interesting take on. Because, there's plenty of what-ifs. The Dragon Ball community has been asking what if this, what if that, for ages. That's why games like Raging Blast and Xenoverse were able to take off the way they did. People are curious, and this applies to really any fandom. What if a thing happened differently? And today, we're going to be talking about what if Goku and Vegeta had stayed fused as Vegito. Now, to get a couple of things straight, we're talking about Vegito for a reason. A, he was the first canon fusion of Goku and Vegeta. B, the Potara fusion was told that it would be permanent. And C, I legitimately think that Vegito is a better fused character than Gogeta. So this might be my bias speaking, but it's whatever at this point. So, considering the fact that Dragon Ball is a battle shonen and we're changing something as big as this, we have to try to figure out how strong Vegito is so that we can figure out how the story would progress. Now, shortly after the Frieza saga, we kind of stopped getting real power levels for people. And all we know is that at that point, base Goku's power level was 3 million. And so obviously with the 50 times multiplier from Super Saiyan, he was at 150 million. That's not exactly the important part. What we want to figure out is Goku's base form by the time the Buu Saga starts, because obviously Vegeta was introduced in the Buu Saga. So, after that initial transformation, Goku has about 12 extra years worth of training. However, 5 of those years, he's training with people that are significantly weaker than him, so obviously he's not going to be yielding the same type of results that he would be if he'd been constantly training with Vegeta the entire time. So, I think it's safe to say that his power level in base form is somewhere around 50 to 55 million. We'll call it 55 million because that way we can call Vegeta 50 million. The reason that I think that there is a difference in their power at the start of the Buu Saga is, like I said, when you're training with somebody that's weaker than you, you improve slower. And Vegeta was mostly training with Trunks by the time the Buu Saga started, and by himself. So he's obviously not going to be improving very much, very quickly. And we don't really know how strong the people in Otherworld were that Goku was training with / against, whatever. But I think that it would be about a 5 million difference, especially considering that the process of turning Vegeta into a Majin did make him stronger. So Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 2 Goku were pretty much evenly matched. So that's what I want to say their base forms were at the start of the Buu Saga. So, when it comes to how strong the Potara fusion is, all we really know is that it's stronger than the fusion dance is, according to Vados and before her, the Elder Kai. According to all the research I've ever done, all the sources I've ever found, the best estimate the community has is power level A times power level B. So if that's the case, Vegito has a base power level of about 2 quadrillion. Which is kind of crazy to me. So there's a couple of things to consider after Vegito is, first created. Assuming that things went basically the same way, they would be absorbed by Buu, free Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks, and Goten, and then Buu would freak out, blow up the Earth, and become Pure Buu, or Kid Buu as we call him here in the West. Now, assuming that there was no retcon about the hour-long time limit, or not being a Kai so the permanence doesn't affect you, or the strange atmosphere within Majin Buu, any of that stuff, Vegito would still be fused. Goku and Vegeta are permanently fused into Vegito. So, they would probably defeat Kid Buu really, really easily. Now, that would change a couple of things. Obviously, you could still use the Dragon Balls on New Namek to bring back Earth and everybody that died. I guess that would bring back the half of Vegito that is Vegeta. That is something that needs to be considered. Would Baba come and just take Vegito, since Vegeta has to go back to Hell? It's kind of up in the air. That's not something that really comes up, because in the original story, they've already unfused by the time that would have come up. But I think that that's worth addressing. I think that with the wish, they'd be fine. Because remember, Vegeta was dead at that point. So they would kill Kid Buu. Oh, whoops! They would kill Kid Buu almost instantly, which would prevent Majin Buu from being released. They wouldn't need to resort. They wouldn't need to resort to the Spirit Bomb, so Mr. Satan probably wouldn't be recognized as the man who defeated Majin Buu. So that could change things. He wouldn't really be the celebrity that he's known as now. But overall, the Buu Saga would still end in a pretty handy, concise way. Bulma and Chi-Chi would just have to come to some sort of arrangement when it comes to what to do with Vegito's body. Could have been more awkward, you know. Goku and Gohan could have fused, and that could have been permanent. But obviously, the Buu Saga isn't what you're here for. You want to see what would happen when Beerus came to town. Because about 4 or 5 years later, Beerus has the dream of the Super Saiyan God and comes looking. Could Vegito be on King Kai's planet training? Quite possibly. But since Vegeta is in charge of Vegito's body, they're probably training at Capsule Corp. But assuming that everything lines up the way that it did in the movie or in that arc of the anime, it's still going to be Bulma's birthday, and Vegito probably would have been forced to show up on the cruise. Now, Beerus would still most likely go to King Kai's world to find out, like, hey, what do you know about the Super Saiyan God? And he would be directed to Earth because that's where all the Saiyans live. So Beerus would come a knocking, asking for the Super Saiyan God, and Vegeta would be like, well, I'm a Saiyan, and I would love to fight you. So here's how I think base Vegito versus Beerus would go. Assuming that Goku's spirit level, power level had gone up to maybe 60 million in the original story by the time Beerus came around. Sorry, I'm a bit under the weather. Assuming that it was about 60 million by the time Beerus came to town, his power level as a Super Saiyan 3 would have been pretty impressive. I mean, it's a 400 times multiplier from the base form, and in his Super Saiyan 3 form, he hit Beerus once based on instinct or speed or whatever you want to call it. But Vegito is exponentially stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So he'd probably be able to hit Beerus a couple times. Maybe pretty easily. You know, I'm not going to say that base Vegito is a match for Beerus or anything like that. That's kind of stupid. But I think that the fight between the two of them would have been more interesting. It could have even set the stakes higher. But Beerus would be like, well, I don't exactly understand what makes you a Super Saiyan. At which point Vegito would transform. But since he cannot unfuse from using too much power, there's no reason that he can't go Super Saiyan 3. You see what I'm saying? So Super Saiyan 3 Vegito would be kind of nutty. I mean, we're talking 800 quadrillion. You know what I mean? Like, is that sinking in for you? 800 quadrillion power level, scrapping with Beerus. But of course, at some point, the topic of what an actual Super Saiyan God is would have to come up. So the only thing Vegito would probably think of to do is gather the Dragon Balls and ask Shenron to produce a Super Saiyan God, at which point we find out what the Super Saiyan God ritual is. But here's the complication. Originally, Goku was a Super Saiyan God, and Vegeta, Gohan, Trunks, Goten, and Pan, while Videl was still pregnant, gave Goku their light energy and he became a Super Saiyan God. That don't work this time, because Goku and Vegeta are in the same body. So, based on what we know from the Goku Black Saga and Dragon Ball Super, not only can Whis rewind time, as we found out in Resurrection F, but he can also visit alternate timelines, or at least affect alternate timelines, because obviously the future of this current timeline in Dragon Ball, at this point in Dragon Ball Super, is not going to end up being future Trunks' timeline, because A, it's already too late for all the Cell stuff to happen, and B, the Goku Black stuff just wouldn't make any sense because of, well, it already doesn't make any sense because that loop has to start somehow. But fun fact, if Vegito never unfuses and Goku never goes back to living his normal life, Goku Black never happens. So when we get to that point, something else is going to have to happen. So I do think that they would come up with the fourth Saiyan that they need being Pan, and get Videl involved, but they still need a fifth Saiyan. So it's like, Whis, can you go to an alternate timeline and grab Trunks? Because he could help. So you have those 5 Saiyans giving their energy to Vegito, and he becomes a Super Saiyan God. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Super Saiyan 3 Goku was able to tag Beerus once, but he still got pretty much utterly annihilated. Super Saiyan God Goku was able to fight a suppressed Beerus pretty evenly. I would say that Super Saiyan God Goku is somewhere between 5 to 10% of Beerus' full power. I really hope that's fair to say, because that way, Super Saiyan Blue being 4 to 5 times stronger still does not put Goku at the level of Beerus. When it comes to Ultra Instinct, I still don't really see that as a multiplier, and I never will. All I think is that it just unlocks his full potential in his base form. So, I think that since Super Saiyan 3 equals 1 hit, and it's a 400 times multiplier, that Super Saiyan God has to be upwards of 1,000 times multiplier. So I would put it anywhere from 10 to 20,000. We'll probably call it 20,000. And 2 quadrillion versus 2 quadrillion. 2 quadrillion times 20,000 is, let's find out. 2 quadrillion times 20,000.
The answer is 40 quintillion.
So Super Saiyan God Vegito would have a power level of 40 quintillion. Now, call this heresy if you want to. I legitimately think Super Saiyan God Vegito would be equal with full power Beerus. Not Ultra Instinct Beerus, but like regular, not holding back 100% Beerus. You can say that's heresy or blasphemy if you want to. I really do think that they would close the distance there. Because I already think that I legitimately think that base Vegito is about as strong as Super Saiyan God Goku. So if you multiply that by about 50 million, then you end up with a Vegito that is crazy strong. That's the thing about the Potara fusion. It is, as far as my research goes, both fusees' power levels multiplied by each other. It's not added together times 10. It's literally my power level times your power level. That is a crazy figure, but it kind of adds up. I mean, if you watch Vegito fight Super Buu stood absolutely no chance. You know? Or if you watch Zamasu versus Goku and Vegeta, once Zamasu and Goku Black fused, Zamasu's obviously significantly weaker than Goku Black, but still multiplying that power level by anything, any sort of significant number, made Zamasu an extremely tough opponent to fight. And so Goku and Vegeta obviously had to fuse in order to keep up. So I think that the Battle of Gods arc here would end in much the same way that it did in the movie, except Goku was Vegito. They would run out of time with the Super Saiyan God form, and then eventually run out of energy, and Beerus would spare the planet. I won't say that Vegito would defeat Beerus, probably mostly due to the fact that Beerus is just a much more experienced fighter than Vegito is. Even if they are equal in power, Beerus does still have the advantage of being alive for millions of years before Goku and Vegeta were ever born, so he would be a significantly better fighter by this point. So we can go ahead and touch on the Resurrection F arc if you want to. If you buy into that theory that after Goku was done with the Super Saiyan God form, he absorbed all of that power into his base, which I don't exactly subscribe to, then you would have a base Vegito who was as strong as he was as a Super Saiyan God, fighting Beerus in the last movie. I honestly think that, because obviously Beerus is like, well, your body got used to the power, I think that the Super Saiyan God energy lingered in him until he got exhausted. Because if he kept that power, then he wouldn't, then A, I don't think he would be able to turn Super Saiyan God, and B, I don't think he would get any stronger or faster from turning Super Saiyan God. But, no matter which way you look at it, Vegeta would have received a massive Zenkai boost from this fight against Beerus, because it would have exhausted him, and, you know, Saiyans always get stronger as they fight a stronger opponent, and Vegito would probably have a base form power level of about 10 quintillion, and that's if you assume that he did not permanently retain his Super Saiyan God power. So by the time Frieza came back to life, those 4 months of training would have been absolutely worthless. He would have had to become Platinum Frieza or something. Basically, Frieza would come back to life, and if Vegito ever found out about it, Frieza would have died in one hit. The Earth would not have been destroyed. We probably wouldn't have found out about Whis' time rewinding ability at that point. Basically, Frieza would have been an afterthought. Like, hey, Vegito, Frieza's back. And then Frieza is no longer back. So that's pretty much all I got for that. That is how I believe the first two major arcs of modern era Dragon Ball would have gone down if Vegito had stayed fused. Next time we can talk about the Universe 6 arc, and we'll probably just hop straight into the Tournament of Power and then Broly. This, like I said, the Goku Black arc pretty much gets deleted because there is no Goku for Zamasu to fight and steal his body. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you next time.